our final project demo for Bulletin. Bulletin is a personalized newsletter so that everyone can get the exact news that they're interested in. We take into account user feedback and article metadata to bring people articles that they truly love and enjoy, along with really useful summaries. Let's dive into who our primary persona is.
Jamie, our primary persona. So, Bulletin is a personalized newsletter. So, that allows Jamie to select their preferences and have all of their favorite topics that they can get their newsletter recommendations for. Um, Jamie is usually a user that has either a short attention span or doesn't have a lot of time to read a bunch of news articles every day. And Bulletin provides all of their favorite news articles in a very centralized location. Um, a typical user journey for Jamie would look like they would check the newsletter in their email, and then they would read their headlines. And if they're interested by any of the titles, they would go to the web app by clicking on one of the titles, and then they would be able to read all of the articles that are recommended for them as well as their summaries, and they'd be able to discover more by clicking on the article links to go to the article source or um, look at other recommended articles that they can get while scrolling.
And today I'm going to be checking out Bulletin for the first time. It says a personalized newsletter, pretty cool. Oh wow, this is really cool. You can pick your favorite topics. It's got a bunch of them for me here, and I can register with my Google account. Okay, that seems pretty useful. Let's look at some of the other stuff here before I register. So they're gonna give me my news based on my interest directly to my inbox. They're gonna take my feedback into account to get better news for me, and I'll never miss a headline with Bulletin. They got a bunch of top articles right here, which is really cool. Some of this stuff I really feel like I would read. Stuff about, Michigan basketball, definitely. Pokemon, love that as well. Seems like I could actually really read these articles. So I'd be happy just to register for this product. I'm gonna go with politics, business, technology, sports. Gonna go ahead and register with Google. Sign in with my account right here. Cool. So seems like I don't have any newsletters yet, but maybe I'll come check back tomorrow.
A little late for work, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and read these summaries actually. So it seems like Britain's going to be the first to roll out a vaccine, and Margaret Keenan at age 90 is going to be the first person in the world to receive one. Very cool. It's the Pfizer vaccine, which is really interesting. Bitcoin news, not really interested in that. Um, South Padre Island, Texas. Oh, interesting. So SpaceX is going to be launching a spaceship again. So that's nice. And then here, Ron Paul's supposing some Bitcoin regulation, it seems. Um, so that's nice. Um, cool. So like I've read the news. I think I have time to read a couple more articles. So let's go see what else the app has to offer.
Oh, cool. So they have some more newsletters sitting here waiting for me. That's really awesome. Let me check out the most recent one, 1208. Nice headline here. It grabs my interest. Google Photos editor has a new HDR effect on the Pixel phones. Cool. So let's check it out. Oh, awesome. So once again, it seems like I can click on the whole link and go to the entire article. They, have labeled it for me based on category. That's great. And, really quick short summary right here. Basically, Google Photos now has an HDR filter, but it's only available on Pixel phones. Really cool. I find this really interesting. Definitely going to give that one a like. Britain becomes the first to roll out a clinically approved COVID vaccine. Just 334 days after the first approved, death in China. Super cool article. Once again, really useful summary. Definitely going to like that one as well. This Bitcoin stuff is annoying. I've been hearing about it for 2 years now. All it means is that I'm losing more money by not investing in Bitcoin. I'm getting sick of reading this stuff. Definitely gonna dislike this article. Sorry, Bulletin, but did not like this one. But thank you for taking my feedback. Um, so those are my articles for today. It seems. We can check out my articles from before too on the 7th and the 6th, which is nice. But rather than that, let's go ahead and try updating our preferences. All listed out for me, just like how I put them in before: sports, politics, technology, and business. And it seems like I can go ahead and like flip these around whichever way I want to. Uh, so it seems like NBA season's over. Not really into sports that much other than the NBA, so let's get rid of that. Don't really want to start keep following that. But healthcare really seems to be picking up nowadays with all this COVID stuff. Seems really important. So let's go ahead and start following that topic instead. Seems to be updated and all that, so we can just go back to our main preferences, to our main articles, sorry, and our main newsletters. Cool. So back at the main newsletters page, all is very accessible. This is fantastic. And now if I wanted to sign out, I simply click the sign out button and I get kicked back out to the main homepage, which is great, to the main landing page. If I want to sign back in, I'm clearly a returning user. So I can just go ahead and sign back in with Google and real easily just go ahead and click on my Google account right here. And I get taken right back to my newsletters. That is so convenient.
So to start out with, all of our user information and the recommended articles per user are stored within the Google Cloud platform under the Cloud Firestore application. Our front end has been developed using React.js, and this application is currently being hosted using the Google Cloud Platform's cloud hosting. And this front end essentially just allows users to interact with our application, provide their feedback, update their preferences, and all this is taken into account, and we update that with writes to our database. We have cloud functions that are essentially triggered every single day. Basically, we have a daily triggered run, which scrapes the web for articles, takes user feedback into account and their preferences in order to match users with their recommended articles. In addition to this, we also send a daily email to our users with this like daily triggered run, which is essentially just sending that daily newsletter with their recommended articles.
Here we have our main database structure. Under the articles collection in Firebase, we basically store our articles generically by category and then by date. So under business, we have all our articles for each date so far listed out right here. So this is a great way when we want to display those articles on our a landing page. This is where we go to. Here we have our newsletters, and we do this on a per user basis. So each user has their set of newsletters, and here we index this by date, which seems kind of obvious. And then this is probably the crux of our recommendation logic, which is the preference keywords. So for each user, we track under each category what are their top keywords that they're really into, that they really like. And so here are all the categories that we offer. But right now, none of our users really have any preferences because none of them have clicked any feedback yet. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the API call that we make to do that. So swiping over here to the right to Postman, I'm going to send this payload to our update keywords endpoint, and this should update the keywords for this user, the NXS user, which is exactly what we're on right here. So sending in our request for positive feedback right here, as you can see with this one. Once we get the response back, we should be able to see right here that it's populated with keywords that are now considered, good keywords for this user. So now we're going to be more likely to give this user another article about Rudy Giuliani, and so maybe that's not the best, but it is the way our logic works. So if you end up liking an article about Rudy Giuliani, you will get more. It works similarly for all the other topics as well. And then here at the bottom, we have our preferences collection. And this just very simply tracks what each person's preferences are, what each user's preferences are. And this one's, pretty self-explanatory, pretty obvious. And we've shown you before in the actual product where you can actually edit these preferences as well. We're getting these user IDs from, right? They seem pretty randomly generated. But these are actually generated for us by Firebase through our authentication flow. So right here, if you go to the authentication tab, you can see all the accounts that we've authenticated, the dates that are authenticated, and they were all done with SSO through Google, which is nice. And they all come with their own user ID. And so this is how we essentially query for different users' properties and different users' attributes in our database.
How we actually use those API calls you just saw in the back end to determine how the user actually gets recommended articles. So as you can see here in the code, we first filter out all the letters and then common words so that the articles aren't skewed by just random uses in any type of article. And then we actually get these keywords using term frequency inverse documentation, which is a numerical statistic that's intended to reflect how important a word is to an article. And then we use these keywords and try to find how frequently they appear in all these different articles that are listed or that are possible for the user. And right here we update these articles in Firebase. And then if you look at the grander code, we use an API to find all of these news articles. We have a category for general that brings in all the different categories, and then afterwards we parse through them and use content-based filtering to sort which category they correspond to, whether that's health or sports or science. And then down here we use natural language processing to get the article summary. We got some help with the natural language processing from a GitHub repository called GenSim Summarization. And then we have this backend function at the bottom here, which basically interacts with the database to update the frequency of terms, as well as the summaries of the articles, the images, and everything that's stored, so that we're able to use it in the website to display this information to the users.
All right, so some challenges that our team ran into when actually building this application. First off, when integrating our front end and our back end with our database, we ran into some issues just because Firestore doesn't support native arrays, and we didn't take this into account at first. So this was a bit of a setback at first, but we just needed to redesign our database and distribute our data more efficiently.
We also had some struggles and challenges displaying the summaries. Some summaries were way longer than others as a result of our summarization algorithm, which would shorten articles to about 10% of their original length. So obviously there was some variation. We tried out a few different layouts to determine which would be the best for the user, and we ultimately decided with a layout that initially gave them the headline first and the image icon of the article first, so that users could decide whether or not they wanted to go and deep dive into like the longer summary. And we didn't shove a super long summary in their face. We wanted to give them those headlines first.
Another challenge we had was coordinating the team meetings with different time zones. We have a team member that's in Singapore currently, which is a 13-hour time difference from the rest of us, which made it a little bit difficult to make sure that time difference was accounted for and no one was staying up too late or getting up too early. And another challenge that we also faced was learning the different DevOps tools that we needed to learn to implement our newsletter, and it took a margin of our time to learn these tools and utilize them in order to make our product.
And lastly, we also faced a challenge designing our recommendation system. It's pretty tricky to make one that's very accurate, especially with something like news where you don't have the same item over and over again like YouTube videos, but they recycle every day. And we need to figure out how the news articles should be assigned to different people and how to personalize that effectively. And so we had to use a lot of creativity and our knowledge from machine learning to design that.